Hello and welcome to today's video. So I've got a confession to make. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of, but I'm pretty open with you guys on what I like, and I like Garbage Pail Kids. So what are Garbage Pail Kids? Well, if you're not familiar, Garbage Pail Kids were a series of trading cards by Topps, and they kind of went off the popularity of Cabbage Patch Kids in the 80s, but did their own kind of disgusting versions of these characters. And so back in the 80s, I got this entire box of Series 5 of Topps' Garbage Pail Kids. So they came with stickers and bubble gums. They were like trading cards, but they were all stickers. And they had some pretty disgusting characters on there, and I'll just share a few if you're unfamiliar. So we have Iron Jaw Aaron. We have Ben Bolt, Willie Wipeout, CONDO MINNIE, D-Faced, and BUGGY. Now, for the consideration of my audience, I shared the less disgusting ones. But it doesn't stop there. Garbage Pail Kids are still going today, and they even have some new cards that I got at Target, including Lost Boyd, Branded BREWSTER, and one of my favorites, Prancing Penny, which is Pennywise from It. So they have all kinds of different themes. They all have that same Cabbage Patch Kid aesthetic to the look of the characters, which makes it a little bit even more disturbing because they're kids, kind of. I mean, they are. It's Garbage Pail Kids. But that's the point of this video. Isn't a history of Garbage Pail Kids, but I kind of want to explain what they were for those that weren't familiar with them. But recently I've been doing some figure bases for some of my collectibles. Well, I'm not doing bases for trading cards, but a few years ago, Funko released some blind boxes of Garbage Pail Kid figures. So I got a couple. And one of them I got was Dead Ted. So you already know by the title of this video, I am making a custom base for Dead Ted. But instead of just doing a base like I did with my last two figure bases, I wanted to do my base based off of the artwork on the trading card. So here's the trading card. I'll have it come up right here of Dead Ted. And I'm going to go ahead and sculpt the grave and the gravestone for Dead Ted. And I want to do it in scale, have it so this guy can stand on it. Alright, so let's get started on the Dead Ted sculpted base out of Worbla. So I have my reference picture ready, and I have my little figurine here for reference. And I'm just going to take some foil and build it up to match that dirt that's been unearthed when Dead Ted came out of the grave. Then I'm going to build up some more foil where I want to put the gravestone. So I'm starting off, I'm just going to take a piece of Worbla and cover up the top part there, where the gravestone will go, and then I decided this might actually be easier if I just do one whole piece of Worbla, just heat it up and let it kind of settle around it and just push it into place. And then I'm going to take another piece of Worbla and use that as the base. So I'll just heat that up, attach it, and then just trim off the excess. And this is actually a lot easier than how I was originally going to do it. Now what I want to do is take a bunch of little pieces of Worbla, heat it up, roll it into a ball shape, press it against the base, and have it be like some extra dirt that's kind of crumbled out or spilled out, and it's crumbled away, so it's separated from the main piles of dirt. But I want to do this all the way around the base in different consistencies, and then I'm just going to take my ball tool and add some texture to it to give it some different depth to it. And this should really come across when I go to paint it. Now when I'm heating these up, I tried some different techniques, and what works best is just put it at the end of my scissors, because I can hold those handles and that handle doesn't get hot, and just heat up one piece. But I've also tried some other techniques. Right here I'm zoomed in real close so you can see how I did the texture on it. Now we'll go back, heat some more up, and add more to our base. Now a couple times I did try some different ways to try to do this and try to heat up more pieces than one, and it just didn't work to take that shortcut. So I ended up just going back and doing one at a time, which made it take a little more time, but I was able to get the results I wanted. But if I tried to heat up a bunch without holding them in place, they just kind of blow all over with that heat gun. So now that I've got all that added, I'm just going to texture that inside, just because I didn't want it to be smooth. He's going to stand there, but technically he should be a lot deeper. But if I was going to do that, I would have to make, the base raised up more. So now I'm going to make the gravestone. I'm just making that out of foil, building that up into the shape that's on the card. And then I'm taking my ball tool and indenting where I want the gravestone to go. And if you remember on the card, the gravestone was at an angle, so I wanted to have that same angle when I put it on the base. Now I cut 3 pieces of Worbla to go on the front and back. So I'm going to use 1 piece on the back and 2 on the front of the gravestone. The reason why I did this because I want it to be a little bit thicker, so when I carve in the RIP, I'm not, hitting into that foil as much. And then I just cut a strip of Worbla to go around the outside, tried to get that pretty much in one piece, so I didn't have any seam lines to fix. And then I did the bottom. And I went ahead and did the bottom so I had more Worbla to heat up and attach to that base to give that sturdy bond right there. Now I'm just going through, fixing my edges, getting everything, get the look just right before I put it on there. It's better to do all the work first than attach it and then try to fix it. I went ahead and filled in some of the gaps, some of the indentions that were a little bit too deep. And once I'm done with that, I can start doing my letters on it. So I started with the I, so I could try to center it the best I could, and then added the R and the P with the little periods. Now the problem with carving into Worbla like this is it, it's a plastic that you're heating up, and so when you're pushing into it, it's going to expand outward, and it's going to push into those other letters. And it was actually a lot trickier than I thought it would be, even though I've done stuff similar to this. It's a lot easier to do on clay for some reason. So I went ahead and heated up the base, got that attached. Now I'm just doing a few more scraps of Worbla to have them go along the side here where it's raised up to kind of cover in that gap. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a break and let it cool down for a while. Once it's cool, I can go ahead and add a coat of gesso for my surface prep. This will make the paint attached to it a lot better. So I went ahead and gave it 1 coat on the top, and then after that was dry, I did another coat on the bottom, which I don't show. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry overnight, and then I can do my painting. So I went ahead and started with the bottom, and I'm just adding a brown coat. Just get that completely covered. Once I'm done with that, I'll let that dry overnight. And really, you don't need to let it dry overnight, but let it dry for a couple hours would be fine. Just give yourself a break. So now I'm going to go ahead and cover the entire top of it, the gravestone, and all the dirt with some black acrylic paint. And that way I can use that as a nice base. So when I dry brush the colors over it, anything that the brush doesn't hit is just going to be black, and that's going to be all those crevices. So this should work out really well for our dry brushing. Now I'm just going to make sure I get all the little deep spots in there, just kind of poke my brush in there, make sure everything gets covered. Now I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, so I'm going to take another break. Now we're back at it with the brown. So I'm going to take the darker brown and dry brush this all over all the dirt areas. So I'm not touching the gravestone at all. I just want to make sure that the dirt gets completely covered with this darker brown. I'm just going to give it one nice coat covering it all. Just keep going until I'm happy with it. Now I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, so we'll take another break. Now I've got a lighter brown that I'm going to dry brush around the edge. So all that dirt that's, you know, been pushed up by Dead Ted coming out and crumbling around the edges, I'm going to use that lighter brown on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix up some black and some white to make a nice gray to dry brush onto our gravestone. So I just want to make sure I get this completely covered. And you can see here, by dry brushing over those letters, those really pop with that black underneath. And I don't want to cover it all. I want to, you know, have it somewhat dry brushed over there so you see some different shades underneath, and it should really give it a nice, you know, kind of cartoonish concrete look is what I'm going for, and I think it comes across pretty well like that. Once we get this finished up, we'll take a look at it with Dead Ted and see how it compares to the card art. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry completely overnight, and then we'll take a look at the final piece. And here is the finished Garbage Pail Kids Dead Ted custom base sculpted out of Worbla and painted with acrylic paint. I'll just give you a 360 look at this before we bring Dead Ted in. You can get a good look at how the base looks by itself. Just gave it a brown paint on the bottom, and you can see some of that black paint kind of wrapped around. I think for future ones, I might just cover them with black Worbla, and that way I don't have to worry about painting it, and I won't have to worry about the paint, you know, scuffing off if it's sitting on a shelf. Another option is if I want to put it on a surface that I want to protect, I could put some like little felt feet on it. But for my first one out of Worbla, this works. Bring it in so you can see some of the details. I'm really happy how the dry brush how the dry brushing works on this. I really like the look of that, how it makes the details pop. And you can bring in, look at the gravestone. Definitely has a stone look with the way the black is showing through there. Plus it really makes the letters pop by dry brushing the gray over the black. No extra detail in the back, I just have a nice stone look. Same with the side. Bring it back down. Get the camera to focus. Now we'll bring in Dead Ted. So here's the figurine I got in the Funko Garbage Pail Kids blind box. And I made it so, you know, he could lay down in there as if he was coming out of the grave, but he can also be displayed like he is on the card. Now this figure isn't articulated that much, so you can't really get the same pose that you have on the card. I'll kind of slide this over, bring the card up here, pew! So you can get the comparison. But overall, I'm really happy how this piece turned out. It's definitely my favorite figure base I've done so far. I really liked using the card art as a reference. I think it gave me a little more direction of what I was going to do with it, but also gave me a goal to achieve with it. Go ahead and slide it over to the center now. A nice view of everything. If you have ideas for other custom bases you'd like to see me make, please leave it in the comments down below. I have a few more of my things that I want to go ahead and do. I've got some other Funko Pops and some other action figures I'd like to make a base or some kind of diorama accessories for them. Alright, well thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like down below. Also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. I post 2 videos every week. I also do a couple of live streams a week. On Sundays, I do a Let's Make a Monster live stream, and during that video, the viewers decide on the attributes of the monster we're creating. I do have the past live streams on my channel, so if you want to check those out to get an idea if that's something you'd be interested in. Alright, thanks for watching, and remember, never stop creating. Bye!